Welcome back to another explainer. We're jumping right into a massive, heavily regulated, and honestly pretty fascinating ecosystem today, the cross-border waste trade. Specifically, we're taking a deep dive into the Municipal Solid Waste, or MSW, disposal corridor that runs straight from Doug Ford's Ontario right into US-Michigan landfills. This is a high-stakes world, you guys. We're talking international trade law, those shifting political landscapes in Washington, and cutting-edge AI. And as we're going to see, the very regulations meant to protect this trade route, they might actually be setting a massive trap for the unprepared.
Take a look at this number, 3825.10. Now, I know it just looks like a random string of digits, but in the world of cross-border logistics, this is literally everything. Every single cross-border wood and waste load shipped by companies like 905 Wood rides entirely on this one highly precarious customs code. It is the absolute linchpin of the Ontario-Michigan waste corridor.
To get technical for a second, HS 3825.10 is the U.S. Harmonized Tariff Schedule classification for municipal solid waste. For Ontario exporters, this code acts as this critical CUSMA and USMCA shield, right? It lets materials flow south, completely duty-free. But here is the catch. As trade tensions simmer and Washington policymakers continually scrutinize these trade agreements, a customs code is ultimately just a claim. And unprovable claims are a hidden legal landmine, simply because border enforcement agencies have learned exactly how to attack that claim.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover the code that cuts, the transshipment trap, and the Ontario-Michigan corridor, before we move into the provenance antidote, the digital refinery workflow, and finally, the sentient bridge. Section 1, the code that cuts. Let's look at that HS 3825.10 vulnerability. Section 2, the transshipment trap and de minimis risk. So, the crucial point here is understanding the specific legal mechanics threatening these shipments, specifically the de minimis rule. Under current established USMCA and CUSMA trade law, to keep your duty-free treatment, a shipment can carry only about 10% of non-originating content. That is the strict threshold. Plus, the transshipment of third-country goods through Canada doesn't legally confer North American origin. In other words, if third-country packaging just passes through Ontario, it doesn't suddenly become Canadian.
This is absolutely crucial because we need to strictly separate established facts from industry risk models. First, you have enacted trade law. That CUSMA de minimis 10% threshold, that's real, and that is enforced today. But contrast that with a theoretical risk scenario driven by all those shifting political landscapes in Washington and constant headlines around Donald Trump and USMCA renegotiations. In a hypothetical escalating trade environment, picture a newly targeted 35% U.S. tariff landing directly on HS 3825.10. Now imagine U.S. Customs aggressively argues that mixed municipal trash from Ontario inherently contains imported packaging, plastics, and waste of Chinese origin. If that third-party content breaches the 10% de minimis limit, the load loses its USMA preference. In this risk scenario, boom, it gets hit with the full 35% tariff, plus a massive 40% transshipment penalty. It's a devastating hypothetical 1-2 punch.
For cross-border waste haulers, this creates a terrifying irony. It's perfectly captured by this quote from the industry: "The paperwork I thought protected me is the thing they use against me." Think about it. If you hand a border agent a standard USMCA certificate claiming a mixed load of trash is 100% Canadian origin, but you have absolutely zero verifiable composition data to back that up, that certificate actually convicts you. You're asserting a legal origin that you literally cannot prove.
Section 3, the Ontario-Michigan corridor stakes.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer physical scale of this corridor. A massive 14.35% of all waste disposed of in Michigan landfills comes directly from this specific Ontario route. We are not talking about some tiny niche edge case here. This is a foundational pillar of Michigan's waste management infrastructure.
To put that into perspective, that percentage translates to 3.46 million tons. Michigan imports 3.46 million tons of trash from Ontario every single year. So if that de minimis risk scenario were to happen and a tariff was enacted, it would effectively tax this entire massive corridor. In that kind of environment, the only winners, the only companies that actually survive, are the ones who can definitively prove they're hauling clean, single origin loads.
Section 4, provenance as the antidote, diffusing the trap. Let's move to and see how this builds into a fully automated compliance shield for companies like 905 Wood. If regulatory ambiguity springs the trap, hard, irrefutable proof is the only way out. First, Edge AI classifies the material right at the source, right at the bin. Second, it mints a DMRV, a digital measurement, reporting, and verification provenance object, which acts as a permanent, undeniable digital record. And third, it emits a standardized Certificate of Origin PDF. Section 5, the Digital Refinery Workflow and the Software Shield. This takes us deeper into the 905 Wood Digital Refinery Application Workflow. It utilizes an incredible UI/UX feature set designed specifically to neutralize this whole transshipment trap. Haulers get a de minimis content meter to monitor their threshold risks in real time. There's a request for quote or RFQ origin pre-check that actually surfaces CU USMA risk scores before a bin is even booked. The origin attestation module binds all that data to a North American origin statement while a transshipment risk dashboard flags vulnerable routes. But the real crown jewel here? The Prove It button. In under 500 milliseconds, hitting this button generates a complete signed audit packet PDF for customs. It provides exactly the output documentation and evidence a de minimis challenge demands. Okay, let's de-jargonize this heavy tech stack for a second. All of this runs on highly advanced Edge hardware. While the current fleet uses earlier models, the roadmap operationalizes the Google Pixel 11 Pro running Android 17, utilizing the LightArt AI stack, Gemma 4, and TurboQuant compression. In plain English, that means the compliance gate is pushed all the way out to the physical bin in the real world. By doing this, 905 Wood's true value shifts entirely to the SaaS application service. The DMRV data, that undeniable proof of composition, becomes just as important as the physical wood itself.
Section 6, the sentient bridge, building a strategic moat.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we need to reframe this entire operation. 905 Wood's digital refinery is acting as the sentient bridge between chaotic instruction waste and the strict, high-purity requirements of the Puro.Earth biocarbon market. The product is the proof. By supplying that market, 905 Wood is doing way more than just dodging trade penalties. The data cut is a competitive moat against any future tariff scenario. More importantly, it secures Ontario's industrial leadership in the growing Canadian circular bioeconomy. This software literally turns a customs landmine into a massive strategic advantage. I want to leave you with this provocative thought to wrap up today's explainer. What happens to the circular bioeconomy when the cryptographic proof of a material, the verified compliance data that guarantees its origin and purity, actually becomes more valuable than the material itself? As Washington trade laws tighten and environmental compliance becomes everything, the players who can prove exactly what they have are going to own the future. It's such a fascinating intersection of AI, trade law, and sustainability. If you're operating in this space, it might just be time to request a quote and get your load certified before that de minimis argument arrives at your border crossing. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll see you in the next explainer.